Coming live from the Tivoli Met Radio studio here on Auraria campus, this is All Sports with Gerardo. Thank you for listening to All Sports through Met Radio on mymetmedia.com, live every Thursday from 3:30 to 5 p.m. This is your host, Gerardo, and all I talk is sports. On the show today, I am going to talk about NFL football, Major League Baseball, NBA basketball, NHL hockey, college football, and college basketball. Before I start the show, I hope you all had a great week. I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. Now that it's finally December, it's great to be back in the Tivoli Met Radio studio here on Auraria campus doing All Sports with Gerardo. Just want to say happy holidays to everybody, and I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving, and Christmas and New Year's is only a few weeks away. To start off, at the middle every month, I post a video or talk about one stadium I went to, so stay tuned for future videos from stadiums across the US. For the month of November, I posted a video where I talked about Nationals Park and my experience there. You can go watch that video on YouTube. You can also view videos from the past and subscribe to my YouTube page at All Sports with Gerardo. Moving on now to Major League Baseball, Zach Wheeler and the Phillies have agreed to a 5-year contract. Cole Hamels and the Braves have agreed to a 1-year contract. Mike Moustakas and the Reds have agreed to a 4-year contract. Jose Abreu and the White Sox have agreed to a 3-year contract extension. Catcher Travis Dion and the Braves have agreed to a 2-year contract. Catcher Mike Zeno and the Rays have agreed to a 1-year contract. Catcher James McCain and the White Sox have agreed to a 1-year contract. So now that we're heading into winter, the winter meetings is just around the corner. But before the winter meetings, some teams have already made some moves during free agency. And we have already had a few big name players come off that free agency list. But with the winter meetings just around the corner, I would expect some other moves to happen before those winter meetings take place down in San Diego. We've already seen a few moves happen, but I would expect a few more. And next week, I will get into Major League Baseball free agency, and I'll tell you all the individual players that are free agents this off season and who they may sign with and what teams are interested in acquiring these individual players. But it's going to be interesting to see where these individual players go and what team they sign with this winter. So make sure to tune in next week to the All Sports with Gerardo show, and I will get into Major League Baseball free agency. But so far, up until now, those are all the moves that have happened in Major League Baseball free agency. Right now, I'm going to take a commercial break. When I come back, I will talk about the NFL. Welcome back to All Sports with Gerardo. Moving on now to NFL football. Frank Gore passed Hall of Famer Barry Sanders to move into third in all-time career rushing yards. Only Hall of Famer Walter Payton and Hall of Famer Emmitt Smith are in front of Frank Gore. Frank Gore joins Hall of Famer Emmitt Smith, Curtis Martin, and Hall of Famer Walter Payton as the only players in NFL history with 3,500 plus career carries. During the Bills-Broncos game, this is when Frank Gore made NFL history by moving into third in all-time career rushing yards, and he passed Hall of Famer Barry Sanders, and only Hall of Famer Walter Payton and Hall of Famer Emmitt Smith are in front of Frank Gore. So congrats to Frank Gore on achieving this milestone, and he's definitely in an elite class among running backs to play in the NFL. Throughout Frank Gore's career in the NFL, he's had a great career, and he's definitely went under the radar in what he's achieved throughout his career. But now, with Frank Gore becoming third in all-time career rushing yards, that's a big deal among running backs in the NFL. Not only that, with Frank Gore being in the same column and being named with Hall of Famer Barry Sanders, Walter Payton, and Emmitt Smith, that's an elite class among running backs to ever play in the NFL. So congrats to Frank Gore on achieving this milestone. And there's no doubt that when Frank Gore retires from the NFL, especially after achieving this honor among running backs in the NFL, I would see Frank Gore in Canton. And there's no doubt he'll be an NFL Hall of Famer when he retires. Russell Wilson has the most wins by a quarterback through 7 seasons in the NFL. Russell Wilson is the first quarterback in NFL history with 9+ wins in each of his first 8 seasons in the NFL. During his career, Drew Brees has thrown 10,000 passes. Travis Kelce is the fastest tight end to have 6,000 receiving yards and 450 receptions. Christian McCaffrey has 20 rushing touchdowns and 15 receiving touchdowns through his first 3 seasons. Michael Thomas joins Antonio Brown, Marvin Harrison, Herman Moore, and Jerry Rice as the only players in NFL history to have at least 100 receptions and 1,200 receiving yards in 3 consecutive seasons. Michael Thomas joined Marvin Harrison as the only players with 100+ receptions in their first 11 games of the regular season in the Super Bowl era. In 102 career games, Zach Ertz is the second fastest tight end in NFL history to reach 500 career receptions. Mike Evans joins Hall of Famer Randy Moss as the only players in NFL history with 6 straight 1,000-yard seasons to begin their career. Jarvis Landry is the first player drafted out of LSU to record 50+ receptions in each of his first 6 seasons. Andy Dalton has the most career passing touchdowns in Bengals franchise history. Since 2003, in 17 seasons, the Patriots passed the 49ers for the most consecutive seasons in NFL history, with at least 10 wins every season. The Patriots have now won 21 straight home games, and they tied their longest streak in franchise history. Before the Browns beat the Steelers 21-7 a few weeks ago up in Cleveland, Ohio, Myles Garrett and Mason Rudolph got into an altercation down by the end zone in the last seconds of the game. Myles Garrett has been suspended for the rest of the regular season and postseason. Browns defensive tackle Larry Alcundy has been suspended 1 game. Steelers center Marquise Pouncey has been suspended 2 games. Mason Rudolph has been fined $50,000 for his role in the brawl. The Browns and the Steelers were both fined $250,000. 33 players from the Browns and the Steelers were disciplined or fined, and a total of fines added up to $422,000. The majority of the players were fined $3,507 for running from the sideline onto the field towards the fighting area. So the NFL is not like Major League Baseball. In Major League Baseball, when you see players fighting against each other, you see the benches clear from both sides. Even the players from the bullpens run to the field. So in Major League Baseball, with the two teams clearing their benches when there's a fight between players, the NFL is not the same. In the NFL, when there's a fight like there was between the Browns and the Steelers, the players that are on the sideline cannot run onto the field towards the fighting area and get involved in the fight. In the NFL, you have to stay on the sideline. And if you come off the sideline, then you get fined. So the majority of the players that were fined, because all these fines added up to $422,000, and the majority of these players that were fined $3,507 was because they ran from their sideline onto the field towards the fighting area, which you cannot do in the NFL. That's why there was 33 players that were fined from this Browns-Steelers game. The Panthers fired head coach Ron Rivera. Cornerback Eric Rowe and the Dolphins have agreed to a 3-year contract extension. The Eagles released wide receiver Jordan Matthews. Cardinals defensive back Josh Shaw is suspended through the 2020 season for betting on NFL games. After the NFL arranged a private workout for Colin Kaepernick in Atlanta, Georgia, all 32 teams were invited to attend the workout. 8 teams attended the workout that included the Chiefs, Jets, Eagles, Titans, 49ers, Redskins, and Lions. After the workout, the video of the workout and the interview was sent to all 32 teams. Originally, 25 teams were going to attend the workout before the workout was relocated from the Falcons training camp facility to a local high school in the Atlanta area. Since Colin Kaepernick's workout, no NFL teams have reached out to him since he had his private workout, and no teams have invited Colin Kaepernick for a workout to see if they would sign him to a contract and have him be their quarterback. So Colin Kaepernick keeps saying that he's ready to make a return back to the NFL and that the football is in Roger Goodell's hands, all 32 owners and general managers. So we're going to have to wait and see if Colin Kaepernick returns back to the NFL this season, next season, or going into the future. But right now it doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon. And if Colin Kaepernick returned back to the NFL and a team signed him to a contract, Colin Kaepernick would likely be the backup quarterback for an NFL team. It's very likely that he wouldn't be a starting quarterback for an NFL team. So we're going to have to wait and see going into the next few months if Colin Kaepernick gets signed to an NFL team, which would likely happen this offseason. If it does happen, since the NFL season is in December right now, and the regular season is getting ready to end in the next few weeks. Last Sunday, the Bengals won their first game this season after beating the Jets 22-6. Noah Fant has the most receptions and receiving yards by Broncos rookie tight end. Justin Simmons' 10 career interceptions are the 4th most in Broncos history by safety through his first 4 seasons. The Broncos placed Derek Wolfe on injured reserve after he suffered an elbow injury during the Broncos-Chargers game, and he is out for the rest of the season. It's unfortunate that Derek Wolfe's season ended early, and it ended the way that it did. This season Derek Wolfe definitely had a great season. He was having a career-high season. He had 7 sacks on the season, which was also a career high for Derek Wolfe. The Broncos-Chargers game possibly could have been the last game Derek Wolfe plays in the Broncos uniform. This is the final season of Derek Wolfe's contract with the Broncos. This offseason, Derek Wolfe is going to become a free agent. Now we're going to have to wait and see if the Broncos can re-sign Derek Wolfe to a new contract. But if they don't, Derek Wolfe will become a free agent. And there's no doubt that there will be a few teams interested in Derek Wolfe's services, since he has been such a great defensive player for the Broncos throughout his career. I would like to see the Broncos bring back Derek Wolfe, since he has been such a great defensive player for the Broncos, and he has been one of the important defensive players for the Broncos throughout his career. Now the Broncos are going to have to work out a contract with Derek Wolfe, and both sides are going to have to agree to the amount of years and the money for the new contract. If they cannot agree to a new contract, Derek Wolfe will become a free agent. If the Broncos were to re-sign Derek Wolfe, both sides would have to agree, and it would likely be a short-term deal, since this offseason the Broncos roster can look different, and the Broncos have a few priorities, especially on the defensive side, and they need to sign defensive players like Justin Simmons, which is going to be a priority for the Broncos. And I'm hoping Derek Wolfe can be a priority for the Broncos. But if Derek Wolfe will not accept a short-term deal, then Derek Wolfe will become a free agent this offseason. But the 2020 Broncos roster can definitely look different from the 2019 Broncos roster. This offseason, their priority is going to be the defensive side, especially Justin Simmons, and we're going to have to wait and see what players the Broncos re-sign and what players they're going to let become free agents. The Broncos lost to the Bills 3-20 on Sunday, November 24th. So looking at this Broncos-Bills game, definitely the Bills showed up. They played some great football. The Bills have been one of the best teams, and they have definitely been a surprise team in the NFL this season. They have a great record. And throughout the last 2 off seasons, the Bills have definitely improved their team on the offensive and defensive side of the football. They have definitely improved the front on offense and defense. They've improved that offensive line and that defensive line. So this Broncos-Bills game was definitely going to be a tough game for the Broncos, especially that the Broncos were going to have to go up to Buffalo and play the Bills. I don't care what type of season the Bills are having, whether they're a good team or a bad team. No matter what team goes to Buffalo and has to play the Bills, no matter if the Bills are having a great season or they're not having a great season, the Bills play some great football in Buffalo, and the Bills know how to play in that type of climate. So with that wind blowing during that Bills-Broncos game, the Bills knew that they had the advantage, and they knew that they could play in the type of weather conditions that they have. Now looking at the Broncos, they didn't do a whole lot on offense. They only scored a field goal, which is not enough to win this game against the Bills. Brandon Allen didn't have that great of a game. The running backs didn't show up like they needed to. Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant didn't show up. So basically, this Broncos offense was shut down by the Bills defense, and the Broncos offense didn't show up. But this Broncos-Bills game was definitely going to be a challenge for the Broncos, since the Broncos are ranked 4th in defense, but the Bills are ranked 3rd in defense. So the Bills definitely have a great defense, but they also have a great offense. Now the Broncos defense didn't play too bad, but definitely there was a few players that stood out. Alexander Johnson has definitely been having a great season for the Broncos. He always plays good every game. Justin Simmons had a great game, especially with that interception. But that Broncos defense couldn't stop this Bills offense, especially Josh Allen. Josh Allen had a great game, but Josh Allen is also a mobile quarterback that can get out of the pocket. You let Josh Allen get out of the pocket, he has an arm that he can throw the football with, but he has legs to run with the football. And Josh Allen was just running with that football, getting first downs, making big plays, not only with his arm, but with his legs. And the Broncos definitely were not prepared for that. And Josh Allen took advantage of that Broncos defense by running with the football a few times, since the Broncos were not prepared for that. In the Bills' running game, definitely showed up. The running backs were great. Frank Gore had a historic game. He broke that record, and he passed Barry Sanders to move into 3rd in all-time rushing yards. So we had Frank Gore pass Hall of Famer Barry Sanders during the Broncos-Bills game to move into 3rd in all-time rushing yards. There's no doubt that Frank Gore will be an NFL Hall of Famer when he retires, and only Hall of Famer Walter Payton and Hall of Famer Emmitt Smith are in front of Frank Gore among all-time rushing yards. The Broncos beat the Chargers 23-20 on Sunday, December 1st in Denver. So after the Broncos-Bills game, and with Brandon Allen starting the last 3 games for the Broncos, now that the Broncos turned the page to December and Drew Lock came off of injured reserve, the Broncos were able to turn the page, and they let Drew Lock start against their divisional rival, the Chargers, here in Denver at Mile High Stadium. In Drew Lock's debut, he had a good game. We weren't expecting a whole lot from Drew Lock, with it being his first career start in the NFL. But we wanted to see Drew Lock have a good performance and win his first start, which he ended up doing. Even though this Broncos-Chargers game was a close game that was won by a game-winning Brandon McManus field goal, overall, it was a great game. Drew Lock had a great game, but Courtland Sutton definitely had a big game. And with Drew Lock having a great game in his first career start in the NFL and winning his first career start and getting the Broncos win, the Broncos offense was able to help Drew Lock achieve his first career win. The Broncos running game showed up. We had Phillip Lindsay and Royce Freeman. But those passes that Drew Lock threw to Courtland Sutton was definitely the highlight of this game. Now Courtland Sutton, I don't know how he can make those catches, but he makes those catches. He can even be double teamed in the end zone, and he makes those catches. This Broncos-Chargers game reminded me of that Broncos-Browns game when Courtland Sutton was making those catches from Brandon Allen. And with Drew Lock at the quarterback position, Courtland Sutton was able to make those catches. So it was great to see Drew Lock have a good game, make those passes, but especially those passes to Courtland Sutton that led to Broncos touchdowns. So the Broncos offense definitely had a great game with Drew Lock and Courtland Sutton having a great connection between each other, getting those passes and getting those touchdowns. The Broncos defense played great. Alexander Johnson is proving why he's one of the best defensive players for the Broncos this season and why he's been one of the best linebackers in the NFL. Derek Wolfe had a great season this season, even though this season has ended early for Derek Wolfe and he is on injured reserve and he is out for the rest of the season. But Derek Wolfe definitely had a career high season for the Broncos this season and throughout his career with the Broncos. So it's sad to see that Derek Wolfe's season has come to an end. But there is definitely other players that can fill Derek Wolfe's shoes. And we have backup players that can step up and play great for the Broncos, especially on defense. And we have definitely seen some players, especially on defense for the Broncos, step up this season that we didn't even know who they were, but they have stepped up and they have proven why they're a great defensive player and why they deserve a roster spot on the Broncos roster. Now for the Chargers, Phillip Rivers in that offense wanted to show up in this game since they haven't been able to win the last few games, and they still want to compete for a playoff spot in the AFC. And Phillip Rivers and the Chargers want to show why they're still a great football team and why they deserve to make it into the playoffs. So Phillip Rivers and the Chargers wanted to come into Denver and win this game against the Broncos, especially that the Broncos beat the Chargers in Los Angeles with Joe Flacco. But here in Denver, with the Broncos having Drew Lock, the Broncos were able to beat the Chargers, and the Broncos were able to win both games against the Chargers this season. Now throughout the game, Phillip Rivers in that Chargers offense didn't play that bad. They didn't start off the game that great, but especially in that second half of the game, they started coming back and getting into the game. And they broke that lead from a big margin, and they condensed that lead to only being down a few points. And the Broncos definitely didn't want to lose another close game against their opponent here in Denver. So the Broncos were able to hold on and beat the Chargers in a close game, 23-20. And it was great to see Brandon McManus make that game-winning field goal against our divisional rival, the Chargers, here in Denver. We didn't want to see the Broncos lose another close game here in Denver. But if you look at the Broncos, it looks like the Broncos have to score 20 points in whatever game they play if they want to have a chance at winning the game. But even with the amount of points the Broncos have been scoring in the game, hasn't been enough. The Broncos cannot hold on to a lead, and they always let their opponent come back. In some of the games that the Broncos have lost this season has been by a field goal or less than 7 points, just because they had a lead and they were not able to hold on to it. But if the Broncos were able to hold on to leads, their record would be a lot different this season, and they would have definitely won a few more games. But if you look at the Broncos, for them to have a chance at winning the game, they have to score 20 or more points, but they really need to get better at holding on to a lead that they have, especially a big lead. The Broncos go against the Texans on Sunday, December 8th. So with Drew Lock at the quarterback position, with there only being 4 games left of the regular season, and now that we're in December, it's very likely that the Broncos are going to stick to rookie quarterback Drew Lock and see what he can do for the Broncos. But the Broncos also want to examine if Drew Lock will be their franchise quarterback going into the future. Now this Broncos-Texans game, especially with this game being down in Houston, and with the type of season that Deshaun Watson and the Texans have been having, especially on offense, this is going to be a tough test for the Broncos, having to go down to Houston and trying to win against Deshaun Watson and the Texans, especially with rookie quarterback Drew Lock in that Broncos offense. So if the Broncos want to have a chance at beating Deshaun Watson and the Texans, the Broncos are going to have to show up on offense and defense. Drew Lock's going to have a great game. The Broncos' running game's going to have to show up, especially Phillip Lindsay. Courtland Sutton and Noah Fant are going to have to show up. They're going to have to be effective in this game. Courtland Sutton's going to have to make catches. Drew Lock's going to have to make those passes to his receivers. The Broncos are going to have to score a lot of points. Not just field goals, it's going to have to be touchdowns. The Broncos want to have a chance at winning this game. They're going to have to score more than 20 points. And if they have any type of lead in this game, they're going to have to hold on to that lead. The Broncos defense is going to have to play great against Deshaun Watson and the Texans. If the Broncos cannot score points on offense, especially touchdowns, and the Broncos defense doesn't show up, Deshaun Watson is going to light up the scoreboard. Deshaun Watson and that Texans offense is going to have a big game against the Broncos defense. And if Deshaun Watson makes those big passes to DeAndre Hopkins and he's wide open and DeAndre Hopkins scores a lot of touchdowns, that's it. This game's over and the Texans will win this game, especially being down in Houston. So the Broncos are going to have to stop Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, and that Texans offense from scoring a lot of points. And if they don't, especially with this game being down in Houston, Deshaun Watson is going to light up that scoreboard with a lot of touchdowns and a lot of points. Deshaun Watson is definitely hard to stop. Whether he's throwing the football or running with the football, the Broncos are definitely going to have a good game plan to stop Deshaun Watson if they want to have a chance at winning this game. The Saints won the NFC South. This is the 14th week of regular season football. So right now I'm going to update you with the Week 13 final scores. And I'm also going to tell you the Week 14 schedule and the games to keep an eye on this week in football. So to start off with Week 13, here are the final scores and highlights from this week of NFL football. The Bears beat the Lions 24-20 on Thanksgiving. The Bills beat the Cowboys 26-15 on Thanksgiving. The Saints beat the Falcons 26-18 on Thanksgiving. The Titans beat the Colts 31-17. The Redskins beat the Panthers 29-21. The Ravens beat the 49ers 20-17. The Steelers beat the Browns 20-13. The Packers beat the Giants 31-13. The Dolphins beat the Eagles 37-31. The Broncos beat the Chargers 23-20. The Texans beat the Patriots 28-22 on Sunday Night Football, and the Seahawks beat the Vikings 37-30 on Monday Night Football. Now looking at Week 14, here are the matchups to keep an eye on this week in NFL football. The Cowboys versus the Bears on Thursday Night Football. The Panthers versus the Falcons. The 49ers versus the Saints. The Broncos versus the Texans. The Ravens versus the Bills. The Titans versus the Raiders. The Chiefs versus the Patriots. The Seahawks versus the Rams on Sunday Night Football. And the Giants versus the Eagles on Monday Night Football. So that's the Week 13 final scores and the Week 14 schedule for the NFL. So right now I'm going to update you with the current division standings in the AFC and NFC. To start off in the AFC East, right now the Patriots are leading this division at 10 games, but the Bills are right behind them at 9 games. In the AFC North, right now the Ravens are leading this division at 10 games. In the AFC South, right now the Texans are leading this division at 8 games, but the Titans are right behind the Texans at 7 games. In the AFC West, right now the Chiefs are leading this division at 8 games. In the NFC East, right now the Cowboys are leading this division at 6 games, but the Eagles are right behind the Cowboys at 5 games. In the NFC North, right now the Packers are leading this division at 9 games, but the Vikings are right behind them at 8 games. In the NFC South, right now the Saints are leading this division at 10 games, and the Saints won the NFC South. And in the NFC West, right now the Seahawks and the 49ers are tied for this division at 10 games. So that's the current division standings in the AFC and NFC. So right now I'm going to update you with the current playoff picture in the AFC and NFC. To start off in the AFC, right now the Ravens are in the first seed and they have won 10 games. Right now the Patriots are in the second seed and they have won 10 games. Right now the Texans are in the third seed and they have won 8 games. Right now the Chiefs are in the fourth seed and they have won 8 games. Right now the Bills are in the fifth seed and they have won 9 games. And right now the Steelers are in the sixth seed and they have won 7 games. In the hunt in the AFC, the Titans, the Raiders, the Colts, the Browns, the Jaguars, the Broncos, the Chargers, and the Jets. In the NFC, right now the Saints are in the first seed. They have won 10 games and they have also won the NFC South. Right now the Seahawks are in the second seed and they have won 10 games. Right now the Packers are in the third seed. They have won 9 games. Right now the Cowboys are in the fourth seed. They have won 6 games. Right now the 49ers are in the fifth seed. They have won 10 games. And right now the Vikings are in the sixth seed and they have won 8 games. In the hunt in the NFC, the Rams, the Bears, the Buccaneers, the Eagles, the Panthers, and the Redskins. So that's the current playoff picture in the AFC and NFC. In the Week 14 NFL Power Rankings, the current top 10 NFL football teams are the Ravens, 49ers, Patriots, Saints, Seahawks, Chiefs, Vikings, Packers, Texans, and Bills. Right now I'm going to take a commercial break. When I come back, I will talk about the NBA and NHL. Welcome back to All Sports with Gerardo. Moving on now to NBA basketball. LeBron James now has 33,000 career points. LeBron James joins Kobe Bryant, Karl Malone, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the only 4 players in NBA history to have 33,000 plus career points. Kobe Bryant has 33,643 career points. Karl Malone has 36,928 career points, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has 38,387 career points. LeBron James moved into 18 in all-time three-pointers made. LeBron James moved into 14th in all-time steals. LeBron James moved into 5th in all-time field goals made. So looking at LeBron James, whether he retired this season, next season, in a few seasons from now, in a few years from now, there's no doubt that LeBron James will be a Hall of Famer with the type of career that LeBron James has had in the NBA with the Cavaliers, the Heat, and the Lakers. With LeBron James joining Kobe Bryant, Karl Malone, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the only 4 players in NBA history to have 33,000 plus career points, that's a huge milestone for LeBron James, especially during LeBron James's career. With only 4 players achieving that milestone, that's an elite group that LeBron James is a part of. Especially with Kobe Bryant and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, since they were former players for the Lakers, and now LeBron James plays for the Lakers. So it's going to be interesting to see if LeBron James could catch up to Kobe Bryant, which he will, because Kobe Bryant has 33,643 career points. There's no doubt LeBron James will pass Kobe Bryant. It's going to be interesting to see if LeBron James could pass Karl Malone, since he has 36,928 career points. But what would be really great, and I don't know if this would happen, this is going to depend on how many more seasons LeBron James plays in the NBA, but this is for any other NBA player. To catch the record that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has in career points, it's going to be hard for any player, even LeBron James, because Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has 38,387 career points. So we're going to have to wait and see if LeBron James can catch up to Karl Malone and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. There's no doubt he will pass Kobe Bryant, which will likely be this season or at the beginning of next season. But depending on how many more seasons LeBron James plays, he could pass Karl Malone, and he could try to catch up to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and break that record that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar currently holds and become the all-time leader in career points. We're going to have to wait and see. But when LeBron James hangs up his jersey and calls it a career in the NBA, there's no doubt he's a Hall of Famer. And with the career numbers that he's had throughout his career in almost every category, there's no reason why LeBron James wouldn't be a Hall of Famer. It's going to be interesting to see how many more records or categories LeBron James can break and be a part of this season and going into the future. But there's no doubt that LeBron James will continue breaking many more records in the NBA, but also moving up in different categories or joining an elite group among individual players in different categories in the NBA. So congrats to LeBron James on now having 33,000 career points and joining an elite group which includes Kobe Bryant, Karl Malone, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the only 4 players in NBA history to have 33,000 plus career points. Carmelo Anthony moved into 18 on the all-time scoring list. JJ Redick moved into 18 and all-time three-pointers made. Dwight Howard moved into 16 and all-time blocks. Rajon Rondo moved into 17 and all-time assists. Zach LaVine joined Steph Curry and Klay Thompson for having the most three-pointers made in the game in NBA history. James Harden moved into 3rd, and he is tied with Michael Jordan for the most 60-point games. Through 88 career games, Luka Doncic has more points than Kobe Bryant, more rebounds than Kevin Garnett, and more assists than LeBron James. Giannis Antetokounmpo is the 4th player in NBA history to record 50 points, 10 rebounds, and 0 turnovers in a single game since turnovers became an official stat in 1977-1978. Anthony Davis is the first player to score 40-plus points in his first game against his former team. Trae Young passed LeBron James for the most 30-point, 10-assist games before turning 22 years old. After the Trailblazers waived Pau Gasol since he was unable to successfully recover from left foot surgery, he didn't play this season after he signed a one-year contract with the Trailblazers, and he will now become an assistant coach for the Trailblazers. So right now I'm going to update you with the current Nuggets schedule. I'm going to tell you every team the Nuggets went against this past week and the final scores of those games, and I'm also going to tell you who the Nuggets go against in the next week. So to start off, the Nuggets went against the Celtics and they won the game 96-92. The Nuggets went against the Suns and they won the game 116-104. The Nuggets went against the Wizards and they won the game 117-104. The Nuggets went against the Kings and the Nuggets lost a close game in overtime 100-97 against the Kings. And the Nuggets went against the Lakers and the Nuggets lost to the Lakers 105-96. This week, the Nuggets go against the Knicks, the Celtics, the Nets, and the 76ers. And the Nuggets begin their 4-game East Coast road trip up in the Northeast. And they will go against the Knicks, Celtics, Nets, and 76ers. So that's the current schedule for the Nuggets, for the teams they went up against this past week, and the final scores of those games, and also who the Nuggets go against in the next week. In the Week 7 NBA Power Rankings, the current top 10 NBA basketball teams are the Bucks, Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets, Celtics, Rockets, Raptors, Mavericks, 76ers, and Heat. Moving on now to NHL hockey. So right now I'm going to update you with the current schedule for the Avalanche. I'm going to tell you every team the Avalanche went against this past week and the final scores of those games. And I'm also going to tell you what teams the Avalanche go against in the next week. So to start off, the Avalanche went against the Wild and the Avalanche lost the game 3-2. The Avalanche went against the Maple Leafs and the Avalanche lost the game 5-3. The Avalanche went against the Oilers and the Avalanche won the game 4-1. The Avalanche went against the Blackhawks up in Chicago and the Avalanche won the game 5-2. And the Avalanche went against the Blackhawks here in Denver and the Avalanche won the game 7-3. This week, the Avalanche go against the Canadiens, the Bruins, the Flames, and the Flyers. So that's the current schedule for the Avalanche, for the teams they went up against this past week, and the final scores of those games, and also who the Avalanche go up against in the next week. Right now I'm going to take a commercial break. When I come back, I will talk about college football and college basketball. Welcome back to All Sports with Gerardo. Moving on now to college football. Alabama was 113-0 since 1936, when scoring at least 45 points. Auburn ended that streak last Saturday after Auburn beat Alabama 48-45 in the Iron Bowl. Ohio State now has 8 straight wins over Michigan, and Ohio State has won the last 15 out of 16 meetings. Jalen Hurts joins Lamar Jackson and Johnny Manziel for having 3,000 passing yards and 1,000 rushing yards through 11 games in the college football season. Colorado beat Washington 20-14 on Saturday, November 23rd up in Boulder, Colorado. Colorado lost to number 5 Utah 15-45 on Saturday, November 30th. Colorado State lost to Wyoming 7-17 on Friday, November 22nd. Colorado State lost to number 19 Boise State 24-31 on Friday, November 29th. The top 25 college football teams are number 1 Ohio State, number 2 LSU, number 3 Clemson, number 4 Georgia, number 5 Utah, number 6 Oklahoma, number 7 Baylor, number 8 Wisconsin, number 9 Florida, number 10 Penn State, number 11 Auburn, number 12 Alabama, number 13 Oregon, number 14 Michigan, number 15 Notre Dame, number 16 Iowa, number 17 Memphis, number 18 Minnesota, number 19 Boise State, number 20 Cincinnati, number 21 Appalachian State, number 22 Southern California, number 23 Virginia, number 24 Navy, and number 25 Oklahoma State. The top 4 college football teams are number 1 Ohio State, number 2 LSU, number 3 Clemson, and number 4 Georgia. This is the 15th week of college football. So right now I'm going to update you with the week 14 college football final scores. I'm also going to tell you the week 15 college football schedule and the games to keep an eye on this week in college football. To start off with week 14, here are the final scores and highlights from this week of college football. Number 17 Memphis beat number 20 Cincinnati 34-24. Number 1 Ohio State beat number 14 Michigan 56-27. Number 8 Wisconsin beat number 18 Minnesota 38-17. Number 11 Auburn beat number 12 Alabama 48-45. Number 6 Oklahoma beat number 25 Oklahoma State 34-16. Now looking at week 15, here are the matchups to keep an eye on in college football. This week is all the conference championship games in every conference. We have the 2 best teams in every conference in college football going up against each other to see who is the champion of their conference. So here are all the matchups for each conference championship game in week 15 of college football. Number 5 Utah versus number 13 Oregon, number 7 Baylor versus number 6 Oklahoma, LA Lafayette versus number 21 Appalachian State, number 20 Cincinnati versus number 17 Memphis, number 4 Georgia versus number 2 LSU, Hawaii versus number 19 Boise State, number 23 Virginia versus number 3 Clemson, number 1 Ohio State versus number 8 Wisconsin. So that's the week 14 final scores and the week 15 schedule for college football. In the week 14 college football AP Top 10 poll, the current top 10 college football teams are LSU, Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia, Alabama, Utah, Oklahoma, Florida, Minnesota, and Michigan. Moving on now to college basketball. In the college basketball AP Top 10 poll, the current top 10 college basketball teams are LSU, Kansas, Maryland, Michigan, Virginia, Ohio State, North Carolina, Kentucky, Gonzaga, and Duke. Right now I'm going to take a commercial break. When I come back, I will talk about the end of the show. Welcome back to All Sports with Gerardo. Moving on out in the show. What to watch for this week in sports? The Broncos go against the Texans on Sunday, December 8th. The Broncos, the 14th week of NFL regular season football, NFL football, the 15th week of college football, college basketball, the Nuggets, NBA basketball, the Avalanche, NHL hockey. Moving on now, on the next show, I will talk about NFL football, Major League Baseball, NBA basketball, NHL hockey, college football, college basketball, soccer, and boxing. I hope you all have a great weekend. Tune in to the next All Sports with Gerardo show next Thursday from 3:30 to 5 p.m. I want to say thank you to everybody that listens to All Sports through Met Radio here on mymetmedia.com. Subscribe or like my pages on social media at All Sports with Gerardo. Until next time, this is Gerardo.